Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Omar. It is October 18th, 2020, 10:15 a.m. And I want to make a video talking about support and resistance. I've made several videos in the past. This video, I'm gonna kind of like really break it down so that you can have a real understanding and like an aha moment. Um, just to simplify this for everybody, I'm going to use a couple of just stocks. And I'm just going to pick a couple of random stocks, and I'm just going to set the premise. Listen, my background is in education. I've been teaching in the private sector for a lot of years, so I know how to make things simple. Um, so, I've been on this options journey now. Primarily the stocks that I'm trading are listed down here, like Apple, Spy, Facebook, Tesla, which is always like kind of like my number one, Nvidia, all those BYND, Amazon. Those are the stocks that I like to like kind of play when I'm trading options. Which is nice in the sense that I trade the same stocks pretty much over and over and over again. But I also like my small caps and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll play with them. I traded Neo on Friday. I bought a dip. I could talk about that too. Um, but I want to really focus on like setting levels so that you can respond the following day, because that's really what you want to do. You want to come into the trading day generally with a sense of stocks that you're looking to watch to trade. All right. Otherwise, you'll see what hits the scanners pre-market, and then you'll map your levels based on that. We can talk about that too. Okay, so this is how we're gonna set this off. So it's October 18th. It's Sunday, right? We're gonna go back to Thursday, so which was the 15th. Okay, and we're gonna pretend that we're setting up for what would happen the following day, which would have been Friday, right? So we're gonna look. I'll start with AMD. I have AMD chart up. I'm gonna look at AMD. This hasn't happened yet, right? We're assuming we're looking at Thursday. So this was Thursday. Thursday market closed. We're like, all right, we're gonna look for what potentially can happen on Friday, which hasn't happened yet, right? So what I like to do personally is I like to go to like a 5 minute chart, and I like to trade off the 5 minute chart. Map my levels generally off a 5 minute chart. But you could go off the 15 and the 30 and the 1 hour and do it that way. But I'm going to stick with the 5 hour chart for this video. Okay, so what I like to do is just kind of just track where the stock kind of peaked and pulled back, and map my levels at the body of the candles. So, right, this is where kind of this is the pre-market high. Also like to map that. If you got a stock with like volume in the pre-market, I usually like to map like the pre-market high. And you can see the pre-market high in the opening kind of held right here, the body. And I like to map the body. Now I used to teach like, map the line here at the top. And no, I always focus on the body because that's where the buyers are, right? Like right here, this is where the buyers are. So to me that matters. It gapped up, and this is the highest point, right? Spiked at the open, went higher. And this is the highest point. And I used to teach, oh, put a line here. Nope. This is where you're going to put the line. Right here. The body. All right. This is where the top point of the body is. Right here. So, right. So we're assuming this is Thursday. So this is where it gapped up. Goes down. Finds his level of support down here. And, you can see it's wicking. And I used to tell people, oh, just put the line here. Nope. This is where's the lowest point where the body is? It's kind of like right here, right? So I'm going to map this there, right? So let me zoom out so you can see, right? And we're pretending that we're looking at Thursday. Friday hasn't happened yet, right? So we're looking at Thursday. We're still looking at Thursday. So we see, right, we map this right here, right, which happened to be the pre-market high and kind of where it held, right? We map this up here, right, because this is where the topped out, where the body is. We don't care about the wick because that's kind of like noise. We seen it pull back, bottomed out here, right, and it spiked up here. So we mapped the body of the candle here, the body of the top of the pivot here. It kind of pulls back, and it kind of gets below it. And sometimes I like to do this because this is telling you that this could potentially be double support area. So I'm going to put a body of the candle here, and then it kind of spikes and it gets all the way back up here. You could, if you wanted to, put a line here, but I'm just going to use this because the distance between this and this is like 10 cents. So I'm going to still use this as a high. And you can say, hey Omar, can you technically use this? If you wanted to, sure, you can put a line here if you thought it would be some relevance, right? So this is kind of where the stocks moved on that Thursday, right? Now, you always want to say, okay, well, you don't know what's going to happen on Friday, right? This hasn't happened yet. So you want to say, okay, well, I want to see potentially an area above, because what if it, goes up, like I want to see overhead resistance, and we do have one level, but let's see if we can find another level above. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I have a 5-day 5-minute chart, and when I zoom out, okay, I see, all right, here's some levels above because this has been on a downward trend, right? So just to look at this, I would say, okay, I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to put a level here, right? Because this is kind of where it opened and it bottomed. I'm going to put a line right here because this is kind of where it bottomed before it kind of went on back on that upward trend. I'm going to put a line here because, right, that's the body. I'm not looking at this no more. Like, to me, that's noise. All right, and I got some levels above now and some levels below. And I can zoom out, and if I wanted to, I can keep going, you know, I can go higher and higher, but that looks good. Now below, if I zoom out, right, so I'm zooming out. Remember, this hasn't happened yet. So I can mark this as to say, hey, it's the 5-day low, or I can go on a further time frame. So just to make this simple, I'll go, let's say I'll do like 20 days, and I'll do like 1 hour. And I can see that the next level below seems to be, where there's an area of support, is like right around here, right? This is kind of where it pivoted before it took up. So I would map this, even though this is technically pre-market, but if you look left, you can see that it kind of held this 8150 level. So that's an area that I would be looking below. All right. So now we got our levels below and our levels above, just to get a sense of whether either direction we have some continuity to know kind of potentially where we can see the stocks bounce. All right. So now let's see what would happen on Friday. So this is Friday, right? Based on our levels, based that we mapped on this Thursday and Wednesday and Tuesday that were above and below, right? So look at this. Look at this. Market opens. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'll put a smaller time frame. Just use a 1-minute time frame, just so you can get a real sense. But when I trade off a 2 minutes and 5-minute time frame. That's kind of how I have my setup, right? So the stock is moving up pre-market, right? Look where it first bounces. Gets all the way up to 84.01. Now, do you map the high pre-market high? You should. Yeah, if you get, let me zoom out. Gotta change time frames again. Sorry. If you get into movement pre-market, I know there's not a lot of volume, but the pre-market high usually matters for whatever reason. It's an area of resistance. So I would map the body of the pre-market high. So this would be a level that I would map, just because it's the pre-market high and stocks tend to react to it. So I would have mapped that pre-market to say, okay, what's the highest point? This is the highest point. So I'm looking at this. So now I'll go back to the 1-day 1 minute. And I'm going to zoom out. And look what happens, guys. Market opens. Look at this. Stuff candle right here. Can't hold this. Stuff candle here. So you know that if you can't hold this, that more than likely you're going to get a short. Look, it starts breaking down. Down, 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 down. Look where it bounces. Right off that line that we mapped. Based off the body. When we zoom out, right? And if I go back 5-day 5 minutes. Okay. Right, it got right around here is where I mapped that body, right? This is where I said, right around here is where I mapped it. Okay, look at that. So just know that that's an accident. Just know that when stocks dip like this, even if they're still on a downward trend, you're gonna get a bounce. And sure enough, look, got bought up right here, and you got the bounce. Came up, kind of tested this, pulled back. This is the previous day's close price. The previous day's close price is an area of support or resistance depending on whether the stock is above or below it. Always have that in mind. The gaps here, can't hold, kind of like gets stuffed here and pulls back. And I have a 5-minute chart here. Let me pull back the 1-minute chart just so you can just see it a little bit more. Look what happens, right? So it's on an upward trend. It tests this, kind of pulls back, consolidates. Right here, the previous day close price, kind of spikes, and you can see it says a sideways consolidation, pulls up, down. Now let's say you're like, all right, I think the stock is still in a downward trend. What should I do? Now this is why I like to use the 2-minute and 5-minute, but for me, let me put up the 2-minute. So you could see that it's, and let me come back in. You could see that on that up when we're oh sorry am I in the right chart? Sorry guys, sorry, a little, okay, looking at the wrong chart, sorry about that. All right, so Here it is. It gets brought up here on the 2 minute, and you can see how it's wicking. When it's going to upward trend or downward trend, you're going to get these big ups and downs. So you got to be careful with that, not to let that fake you out. Because like you see these big red candles, and you think, oh, it's going to dump, and look, it held the previous day's close price as support. It gets up, and it pulls. Now, if I'm looking to short, if I see this, like, I don't like to short, like, you could technically start into a short, but what I like to do is if I have a level that I'm going to risk off, I like to see it kind of pop and reject. So here you got the dump, and you see right here, it's still red, but it potentially starts to pop, and right into this, I would start in my short. And I would risk either off this or this. And then you can see it kind of bounces off the previous day's close price. It spikes up and look right into this body of this candle. It can't hold it, and it dumps. Look at where it bounces. Right here at this 82.50 level. It got to a low of 82.41, and then it just kind of consolidated and moved back up. Now let's zoom out. Look at this, it goes back up, kind of pulls back, it's stuffed right into this area of resistance, pulls back, double bottoms right there, and that's a great sign that the stock is now going to trend in a different direction. And this would have been a great area to start a long in, because you know you're getting the big pullback right into a key level support. It's starting to get volume. Remember, on its way up, it's going to pull back. So when it pulls back, it's retesting that level, and you're like, hey, you know, it's consolidating. It's holding that key area of support. This is a good area to risk. So if you start in long here, you can risk off the 82.53, or the, if you really want to hold, you can hold to the 41, because you may see a little slippage and then a takeoff. But you can see it kind of pulled back and held support. That's giving you the go sign, and you would see that volume's coming in. And look where it goes. Gaps all the way back up, right into the 82.53 level, which previously got stuffed and dumped. Guys, this is not rocket science. Look at that. It all just, let's pull up another chart. Let's pull up, I'm just gonna pull up a random chart. Let's pull up Apple. Let's see what let's do the same principle with Apple. Alright, same thing. Alright, let me just delete all my lines. And this is what you should be doing. Like today, this is what you should be doing. Going through your charts, mapping your lines in anticipation of tomorrow. Or just have them there just because they're helpful. Because on Thinkorswim, especially if you Thinkorswim, these lines stay there permanently. So that when a stock is moving, you pull it up, you already have your level set, and you can react accordingly. So, remember, this hasn't happened yet. This is Friday, right? We're pretending it's Thursday, market close, and we're preparing for Friday. So we're going to start mapping our charts, right? So, okay, so let's see what happens here. Market opens. This is the area where it kind of, held. So now it goes up, and I'm going to map this. This is the top. This is the body of the candle. So this matters to me. Pulls back down. You can map this level, or this level, or you could just say, hey, this is kind of where it came all the way back down. So you're going to map this level. You could get very specific and map each level. It's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't want to have 10,000 lines, you don't need to do that. It's up to you. It's a personal preference. Pulls back, kind of holds, and this is kind of where you can see that this is where it kind of pulled back and held. So I'm like, all right, where's the lowest body candle? Right there. So that's where I'm basing it off. That body right there, because that's where it consolidated, and then it took off. Gapped up, pulled, got up to the top here. So I would map this, right, just to see, and then it pulled back here, and then is the body, and then it spiked all the way up here, right? All right, so I'm holding that. So now, okay, so now pre-market's happening. You could see that this is the top, right? But before let's say, well, I don't know if it's gonna keep going up, so I got to see if there's any levels above, right? So, okay, so now this hasn't happened yet, so I would be looking at these to see, like, to map these levels above, because potentially if it goes up, I wanna map them. So this is where it kind of peaked on this day. This was on the 14th. So it kind of pulled down, and you see how the stock's already bouncing off these levels. I could, if you want to, I could say, hey, you know what? This is kind of where it topped before it kind of went in that momentum shift. So to me, I'm mapping. You can map this level. All right. You could say, hey, Omar, can I map this into? You could, but for me, this is key only because it peaked here and then went on a dump. That's why I'm mapping that top. All right, and I can look back, right, look left, and say, okay, well, just to make sure I have all of these levels, I'm gonna map the levels above. So for me, What would be critical is this level up here, right? Because this is kind of where it topped. And obviously this level here, I would map that because that's where it opened and it dumped, kind of fold up here. You can say, hey Omar, can I put this level too? Because it kind of, you know, dumped, popped, and then just continued on the downward trend. Yeah. So in theory, you can map all these levels because you don't know what the stock cap is going to do on Friday, right? We're pretending that we're looking from here, Thursday, right? So we're looking to see potentially levels up and potentially levels below. So Thursday happened, we mapped our lines. Okay, we see pre-market, it's moving. You could, in theory, if you wanted to, map this because it pulled back, but I just technically, because it's not a ton of volume. I just really want to see where the big pivot is. So, here's where it kind of like held and then it topped here. Now I'll map this only because this was the pre-market high. So Friday happens, right? So this is Friday. All right. This is Friday. And look what happens. Market opens. And actually, yeah, you can mark this. And it dumped, like in that last 928, 29, it kind of dumped. So I would map this just to see, because it's a big red candle just got stuffed into this. So look what happens. Market opens. It kind of consolidates here. You don't know which level it's going to go, and it can't hold this. And in this candle, you see it's already starting to dump. It wicks here, so it's got stuff. So right here, you could start in short if you wanted to. If you can start in short. It kind of consolidates here, pops up, rejects this, so pulls back, kind of holds, pops up, rejects it again. So you got like almost a triple top here. So this is telling you, man, this is not moving. And you would look at the volume to see if there's volume coming in. You don't see that there's any volume coming in. And remember, I'm using the 2-minute, but I'm also using the 5-minute time frame. So on a 5-minute chart, this is what it would look like on a 5-minute time frame. And you can see on the 5-minute, this really can't hold. And right into this, you start a short. Look at that, wicks, gaps up. And this, I see this, I'm attacking. I'm buying puts right away. I'm going in puts. I'm looking at the SPY. If the SPY's dumping, that's also going to help me in my position. Like if the SPY's going up, and I would just be very careful, because if the SPY's going up, it's all algo driven, and they usually follow. Most of the stocks follow the SPY. But if you see SPY dumping, that's a big opportunity for you to go short. And look where it dumps. Now look where it dumps to. When it dumps, first stop here, right? Pops into, so this is support. When it's here, this is support. Breaks support. Support becomes resistance on the pop. Remember, when stocks dump, you get a bounce, and then they continue on the way. They continue on their journey, whether they're going up or down. Couldn't hold. Look where it dumps, right to that next level. Okay, look at that. Pops, pulls back. Can't, and then it kind of, you can see, starting to hold, and then it kind of gets here to the next level above, which was support. That became resistance. Can't hold, and then dumps down to the next level. All right. So when I'm trading, I'm just using these levels to guide me. I'm looking at the chart and I'm looking at the levels, and that's it. I have my lines already set. You don't need VWAP, you don't need RSI, you don't need none of MACD, you don't need none of that bullshit. All you need to do is know where support and resistance is based on where the stock has pivoted. And we mapped those lines based on the body of those candles, all right, from Thursday, and it gave us a sense of where Friday potentially we can go. So I'm looking at both days, and I'm saying, all right, it's pulling back from this top. It bottomed here. It's kind of moving up. But the SPY, and this is something completely different, the SPY dumped. So that's why you saw it kind of just dump, because it was dumping. It was following the SPY, all right, on Friday, which caused it to dump, because this normally would be like a strong area of support, and then you would start seeing at least retest up here. No, on a normal circumstance, it might have broke through this and maybe got here and then kind of dumped. But it just dumped because the SPY dumped, and everything's going to follow the SPY at some point. That's how that happened. All right, very, very simple. Look, it's all reacting based on the support and resistance levels that I mapped before. You're gonna say, well, Omar, what about some of these like penny stock stocks that these traders are shorting? Like, what do I do with those? So like, let's use like I think ASLN was a stock that moved to pre-market, right? So the first thing you need to do is when you see these stocks moving, most of these stocks are moving on bullshit news. They're shitty companies. You always want to look back on the daily to see the history. So when you look at the history, you can see these like this stock kind of like stuffed, but it had a history of the past of like kind of running. So generally, you know, you can see that anytime it moves, it kind of pulls dumps, right? It doesn't really hold its gains. But on this, back in 2019, this thing did kind of pull back and then just rip shorts each day. So, you know, you got to be careful with that. So you could, in theory, before you do anything else, you could like map. I would look on the daily and I would find all the bodies of the candles on the daily, and I would just say, okay, I'm just gonna map these levels right on a small cap just to know these are potential areas where if the stock gets to these areas, people who are in caught long, you know, are gonna panic and sell their position, and that's why you see the big dumps, right? So you know you could do this really fast if you have a scenario like this, right? You could do that on the daily. You could, and that gives you a sense of where the stocks could go on the daily chart, right? So now, if I'm looking at this pre-market, okay, and I'm looking how the stock is going to react, I'm looking to see where it's up and down. And actually, pre-market, this shit dumped. But you can see, right, it kind of spiked here, right, and then it pulled back and kind of found its support here, all right, and then it you know, it went up on this upward trend and it got all the way to a high here. All right, so now you're looking at this, and it's, what time is this? It's 7:05. So this happened really early. I mean, this would have been very difficult to react to, but look, you see it, you see this. All right, it's 7:05. You map your levels, you're looking for it, and it just died. But technically, could you trade this pre-market? Yes. And look, it kind of here popped. When you see it folds and you see this popping and you see it's like on the pop, it's continuing downward, that's where you could kind of go short. But this didn't even give you a chance to get to like do anything. Look at this shit kept dumping. It just dumped all day. So that's kind of how I mapped those. Now let's look at Hertz. Let's look at Hertz, because Hertz was a big one. So Hertz, obviously Hertz, you know, it's a shitty company. It's bankrupt, but you know, it had this big move. So you know, you're starting to see it move. So if I'm looking at a move, I'm looking on the daily, I'm like, okay, where are the big candles where there's overhead resistance? So technically, I would have seen that, you know, it's moving in this pre-market. I'm like, okay, this may be, you know, these may be areas that I may be potentially looking at. I'm like, what's the next overhead level above? So I'm looking at, so I'm like, all right, so I'm going to map this. All right, I'm going to map this. All right, so I'm looking at, I'm going to map this. So I'm like, all right, these are the areas that I could potentially map this, because there's a big candle here and low and the top. So there's a lot of volume in these levels. Potentially could get stuffed. So all right. So I got, okay, I know my overhead resistance potentially. All right, so I got that figured out. All right, so now I'm looking at the chart, right? And I'm looking at it pre-market. So I'm seeing that it's moving, and I talked about this in the room, and you can see how it spikes, it pulls back here, and it kind of holds the body here. So I'm mapping that. It gaps up, it kind of pulls back here, consolidates, and then it takes off. So I'm mapping this, right? It goes up, pulls back, it holds this level here, so I'm mapping this. It gaps up here, and it kind of double tops. So I would kind of map this. We could potentially map this, but I wouldn't, because this is kind of where it consolidated. So I would look at this, and I could say, hey, you know what? It consolidated here, it gapped up, and the pre-market high is here. But this is where the body is. So to me, this is where I really look at. And these are the levels that I would be mapping pre-market, watching the stock, all right? To get a sense, wait till the market opens and then get a sense of what it's going to do. So now we watch the stock, all right? So let's see how it reacts to the levels that we mapped. All right, it never gets above to any of the candles. This is what we mapped on the daily. These were the levels above that we mapped, right? We mapped these levels above. So just in case, these are potential areas we could short into. If you have a broker where you can short, that's a whole nother story that these gurus don't really go, you know, are not very honest about. All right, so all right, so what happens? Market opens and it spikes. This is that warrior trading bullshit that they teach you, that you get fucking smoked. You know, warrior, you know, these chat rooms, they'll tell you to just buy the breakout, chase it, but you never buy a breakout. You want to see a pullback and see it, kind of test before you buy. And like I have Thinkorswim right now, and I'm trading mostly options on it, but I can't chase this. The executions are so horrible on Thinkorswim. Even a market order would lag and sometimes drag. It happens so fast. You're gonna get shitty fills. You don't want to be chasing this. You want to see it pull back, hold support, and then take off, and then chase long. But look what happens. It's kind of spikes, and it get peaks out here. So you can map a line here, knowing that this is kind of where it's topping and it's pulling back, and it dumps. Look what happens now. When you get a dump like you got here, all these people are caught long, so they are fucked chasing this. It dumps so fast. Look where it bounced. Back at that 210. Let's zoom out. Okay, 210 was that area of previous support, right? So you got a little spike, can't hold, it gets stuffed, it dumps, and look, it consolidates here, right? Where we mapped that area previously, and look, right into here, you start getting, look, it can't hold, boom, boom, boom. You see how it just keeps stuffing? And for me, I'm trading, when I'm trading this, I'm trading off the 2-minute. I'm trading off the 2-minute, so I can see all the stuff, candles, and I'm also using the 5-minute as well. So, just to show you, this looks very colorful, and I do not recommend this. This is just, I have some indicators that I use. I really use the clean chart. So kind of like my honest setup is I would have this sort of like, I have a 43-inch screen, so I have a big screen, I have 2 of them. So I would kind of have this on the bottom like this, and I'm using these to help me. These are like volume indicators. These tell you when a stock is 2 or 3 times above its relative volume. So it's really telling me where candles could potentially get stuffed, and it's just something that I use. Do you really need it? No, it's just something that's helpful for me, that I like. But technically, when I struggle, like if I go on like a losing streak, I remove everything and I just go back to a clean chart. But I have the clean chart in conjunction with this. That's just something that I've been doing, and it's just something that I like for me. But you don't need it, honestly. You look at the best traders, they don't have shit on their chart. So look what happens, guys. It pulls back and it finds support right around the area where we had mapped 178, right? Got a little below it, and then it reclaims it, and then it's off to the races. Look, kind of consolidates here, up, consolidation, up, consolidation, up, pull back. Now, you can say, Omar, what if I wanted to like short here, because this is kind of where it dumped? You know what? Technically, it wouldn't have been a bad short. Like if you had saw it kind of pull back, pop here, and then not hold, and then started short, that's what happened. Like short sellers, they were risking off this because they saw this was a level that they mapped. They started popping, getting in short here, but then it kind of held this level and then just is off, and then they got squeezed out. That's kind of what happened. And your risk, if I would have been in short, I probably would have risked the top of it. So like the very top, like right here, would have risked off of if I would have been in short. And you take a quick, you take your L, but it's not a bad opportunity. You just got to be careful, because you got a lot of buyers that stepped in here and a lot of buyers stepped in here. But in theory, because it's such a shitty stock, people thought that it was going to kind of come to this level, or at least to this right up in here, and then just dump. And that's not what happened. So, it kind of gapped up. Here, people might have started in short again, saying, okay, I'm going to risk off this level because it's where it consolidated before it dumped. And sure enough, people started in short because they saw this kind of dump gap down, and then it popped, and then it just squeezed shorts again. That's it. And then look what happened. It got to the top, and here technically you could put a line here. I would have probably, because this is kind of where it popped before it continued to dump, which I definitely would have put a line here. And look, got right here, dumped, and it's in this channel. It was in this channel where it popped, dumped, right into there. It was in this channel, and then after hours it started to break down. So who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen on Monday? But all right, at least you are ready. Oops, let me just sorry guys. You are ready to react, because you would have the level set, because you did this in a video. And that's kind of how you do it, guys. You go through all your charts. Like, I don't think I'm trading tomorrow because I have a lot of work to do, unfortunately. I work a full-time job and I trade part-time. I may not be able to trade. I don't think so. Tuesday I should be able to, hopefully. But like Tesla's like my number one chart. Look, I already have my levels mapped. All right, and Tesla is the stock, the actual stock that I love to trade options more than all the others. So let's just use one last example, Tesla. Okay, Tesla. So, all right. So this is Thursday, right? I'm gonna map my lines based on Thursday, and Friday hasn't happened yet. So again, I'm gonna go to 5-minute time frame. All right, and I'm gonna say, all right, well, kind of, this is where it topped out, right? On Friday when the market, Thursday when the market opened. This is where it pulled back to. All right, this is where it popped to, and then it kind of pulled back to this level right here, and then it popped here, and it's so close. But with Tesla, with these wicks and this craziness, I like to map everything because it's just, Tesla's just a wild stock. So right, so this is Thursday, right? Friday hasn't happened, so we don't know which direction the stock is going to go in. So I want to map the levels above. All right, so I would map this level, right? Because this would have been on Wednesday, and this level here above, this level here above, this level here above. Okay, now I'm looking to see where it bounces. So it kind of bounced here, and it pulls back and it bounces here. And you don't have to do this, but I like to get a sense of very strong support and resistance. So now I got my levels above. I got my Thursday level, right? Friday hasn't happened. I see post hours, it's already starting to gap up. So, okay, so I have my levels below. Now, I can look to see, okay, I don't know, maybe it's going to dump, so I want to see what's below it, right? So I would go back, this is Tuesday and this is Monday, and I want to see which levels are below. So this is, to me, is a key level that I would be looking at, and then I would be looking at this level down here because this is kind of where it pivoted. So now I have levels below, right, and I have levels above. So now let's see what happens on Friday. Friday market opens, right, and I'll put the 2-minute chart. Friday market opens, right? Look at this. And we were in, I was looking at NEO. Normally I trade this. I don't know why. I'm such an idiot, but I got it, dip by on NEO, which was nice, but I should have been looking at this to trade my options, and I'm kind of disgusted with myself for not doing that. The rest of the room, like a few guys were trading Tesla, and I just had it. I was fixated on NEO, so I just stuck with NEO. And I traded stock. I didn't even like take contracts on NEO. Well, oh well. So you could see that market opens and it can't even hold this level, right? And then finds it kind of wicks and pops. But we got a lot of resistance in here, and you can see it's getting stuffed, and it pulls back again. And remember, I'm trading on both the 2-minute and the 5-minute. So when you're looking on the 5-minute, 5-minute gives you like a clear picture of what's happening. That's why I like to look at both. The two I use for my entries. The 5 is giving me the overall trend, and you can see how it comes back down here, holds because it's a double, it's a strong area of support. And I'll go back to the 2-minute again. Let me zoom out again. And oops, let's go back. And you can see that it spikes and gets stuffed again, right? So it got stuffed again. Oops, sorry. Let me zoom out. Okay, it goes back, it gets stuffed again, and right into this. Like, this is where I would be starting to short, because I'm saying, look, it popped, it can't hold, it gapped down, dropped in price, spikes right into this, boom. This is why, like, you always short into resistance and you always buy into weakness. That's the way. That's how you should be. That's how it's supposed to work, guys. And you can see that it gaps out when it tests this, and you see, like, man, it's not holding. It's going up, but it's keeps rejecting. And you see this? This is the go sign. When you see this, when you see that it pops and then it pops again, but it's not holding, that is like kill sign. That is your sign to attack. Because you look at what happens. It gets stuffed and then it starts dumping. That is where you start going short. You buy your puts or you go short. You know what? If it breaks out and it goes, all right, fine. But this was showing weakness, and this is where you go and look at this. gaps down, you know, gets below the previous day's close price. That's what this yellow line represents. Kind of holds the support. It gets stuffed right into this and then continues down. And then look what happens. That double area of support that we mapped, right? Based on when we zoomed out, right? Based on the bodies of the candles that I mapped, right? This was the I think it was here. Let me zoom out a little more. This is, oh, I'm looking at the 2-minute. That's why I used the 5-minute. So based off, right, this level, right, that I mapped, right, based off this from that Wednesday, okay, from Thursday, you can see it held that level of support right into this, and then look, it goes all the way back up right into previous resistance, which was support, can't hold, and then dumps. And then this dump, because the whole SPY dumped and the market tanked and everything tanked with the market. But you can use these entries. So if when I get a big dump like this, I'm looking for an area to dip by. In fact, I think I told the room, you know, look to dip by Tesla. And you can see this was a strong area of support, right, on Thursday as well. And look, it holds this level, and then it's off, then it gets rejected right into this, and then just completely dumps. And look where it bounces. That's what it is, guys. If you do exactly what I'm saying, like, you're like 90% there. And if you love shorting dog shit, like, what you do is, you know, you look at these stocks that are like gapping up or had their first red day after a huge gap. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to find one. Like Hertz would be a good example, potentially a good example. I'm trying to see like one stock. And I know this video is way longer, but this is like the shit you need to know. Like, this is the stuff that your gurus aren't teaching you. I'm just trying to find one. Let me see. Let me look for a stock. Let me just. Let's see performance. Let's see up. Let's see up 30, 20% for the month. Let's do that. Let's see. I'm just trying to find a good example of a stock. Fuck, man. All these are like. Jack on it. I already did ASLN, but that thing don't, right? Let's use B, even though it's not the perfect example. Let's see. B's kind of on a downward trend, so you're looking for a gap up to short into. All right, so let's use B. All right, so B's like on this downward trend, and you know. So you're looking for a potential area to get into because you think that the stock is going to go short, you know, like it's going to continue on a downward trend, I'm sorry. And this is not a great example. I was trying to find a chart. So obviously, you know, now we're talking about for potentially to Monday. So I'm looking at this chart. This is the top of the body. This is the bottom. This is kind of where it topped out again before, you know, pre-market it came all the way down, found itself here, and it's gapped up here. So I would probably map this because it's kind of where it opened, and you could potentially, if you wanted to, you know, on the way up, this is kind of where it consolidated, so you can, you know, map this level here too. And now you have your level. So what you would do is, you know, if you're thinking it's still on a downward trend, you'd want to see what had happened. Like, is it gonna come back into this level above? And if it rejects, then you write it down and continue with, see if it's gonna break down and continue on its way down. This is not a good example. I was trying to find like a penny stock where that had like a big move up and had a first red day to show you. But I do have a video on it in my channel that talks about it. This is my channel, Watchotrade, and I don't remember which video is it, but I do have a video first day after red day. It's somewhere in here. You can look for it and it kind of goes into it. But that's how you do it, guys. All right, so you know, that's kind of how you map your support and resistance, and you see how mapping my support and resistance proves to you, right, that mapping your levels, look how the stocks react to it. You don't need anything else, just map your levels and you should be good to go. So hope you find this video helpful. Like, subscribe, and share, and let me know what you think, guys. And I'll leave a link to the room in the description so you can come, you know, hang out with us. All right, have a good one, everyone. Sorry this video was so long.